All right, so now we've got it flattened out. We can kind of inspect and see what we're going to have to work on. So we actually have a crack right here that we're going to epoxy and probably inlay a bow tie on. And then obviously we've got these cracks that run pretty well all the way through. I'll show you on the other side. They're worse on the other side than they are this side. My initial plan was to have this on the right hand side when it's flipped over, because the customer is right-handed, and I thought it would be cool to have this. The thing is though, and I'll show you in a minute, is the fact that this seems to be the better looking side. It's better condition. The epoxy won't be as prevalent on this side. As you can see on this side here, the back side, there's a little more work to be done to fill it all in. And then especially on the end here, which honestly, actually, I will be cutting some of this off because I think I cut this about 3 inches longer. So we probably will end up taking most of this off down to here. So I'll let the customer look at it and decide. I am going to take some more off this side because I think this slab's going to be is a little bit thicker than the other one. So well, at the end of the day, we'll let the customer decide, but we're going to have to clean all this up and then go ahead and epoxy this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tape off all the cracks on this side here and try to do a very good job to get it taped off, because if it has the slightest little hole in it, all your epoxy will pour right on out of it. So it's important to kind of sand it smooth and then get all the dust off of it. All right, so we finished epoxying the bottom part. I believe it's going to be the bottom. And so we've got a pretty good layer of epoxy here that we need to go ahead and grind off. All right, so I've got clamps pretty much top and bottom all the way across. That helps keep it from bowing, because if you put clamps on just the top, you run the risk of it actually curving kind of taco shape this way. So you need to put clamps top and bottom fairly even so that they have equal tension. And then tested it with this level here, and we're pretty close. So as long as it stays there, we should be fine. Once I'm done drying tomorrow or maybe Saturday morning, day after, then I will put it on my flattening table and we will just flatten it off just a little bit both sides, and then go to finish work. All right, so I've got it all prepped for epoxy. Unfortunately, when I tried to shoot the video, it didn't quite didn't take. Anyway, so I've gone through and I've used hot glue to create a little barrier around the cracks that I'm going to fill. And then I also, along the seam, there's just a little bit of a space here and there where it didn't quite seal. So we're going to epoxy that. So we use this tuck tape to do that. So we're just going to go through and just kind of fill in the spots and then do the cracks on this. And I'm using a 45-minute epoxy. That way it'll be ready to work with tomorrow. All right, so you may be asking, why did I go through that trouble? Elm is very porous, and if you just pour epoxy over everything, it's going to create really dark spots. As you can see, some of these spots, I'll be able to work these out, but when you sand it down, you'll see these lines. So I wanted to minimize the amount of dark lines I put into this prior to actually putting the sealer on there. So this keeps it where I can actually control it. All right, so now we mixed up some pure 2C. And this is gonna be the bottom. This is the first time I've actually used this stuff. It's supposed to be pretty easy to use, so hopefully we got the mix right. And try this out. Well, there it is. I really like the way this turns out. This is the bottom, believe it or not. So that elm really pops. You can see one of the areas where I had to epoxy pretty good size hole up in there, and then there were those cracks we looked at earlier running down. I've got those all filled in. Same thing over here. It's gonna make one beautiful desk. So we will let that cure and then keep on working.